welcome back to another episode of the REINVESTORS Virtual Road Trip. We're going across the country, coast to coast, interviewing real estate investors and professionals from each province, showcasing the towns they invest in so that you, wherever you're watching from, can get more knowledge of investing in other successful markets.
Yeah, we're so excited. Our guest today was taught a strong work ethic from a young age on his family's farm in Saskatchewan, and that really gave him a strong entrepreneurial drive. While working full-time jobs, he started multiple companies in his 20s until he found his true passion in real estate asset management. He bought his first property at the age of 23 and continued to build a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio before the age of 30. He now has properties and investors from all across North America in his company YXL Real Estate Investments. Even in his first year of raising capital, he was able to raise over $1 million and believes that everyone should have a second stream of income and wants to provide a solution for people who want that too. He wants to grow his and his investors' portfolios to $100 million before the year 2025, specializing in solid cash flowing assets. This guy brings a lot of fun energy. He likes coaching active investors who want to learn how to do it on their own, and I've really enjoyed getting to know this guy. Now, I would like to introduce Fraser. Fraser, welcome to the road trip, buddy.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on your show. I'm super pumped for this.
Yeah, right on, man. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so you mentioned a little bit about it, but yeah, I grew up on a farm in Southwest Saskatchewan, small town kind of thing, and just moved up to the city after high school and had a few jobs, went into the oil field, came out of the oil field, went into mining, and then I actually bought my first property, then slowly accumulated properties one by one over the years. And yeah, I just got bit by the bug. I realized how you can create passive cash flow and just how great it was. So I wanted to learn how to do this full time. So I started seeking out people and surrounding myself with people who were doing what I wanted to do. So eventually we got into it and started raising money and working with partners, and just kind of exploded from there. So yeah, we got some pretty cool stuff on the go right now. And yeah, I love chatting about it. So
yeah, once you get the bug, man, you can't shake it.
Yeah. And then you try to pass it on to other people, but sometimes they don't share the same enthusiasm. So you just gotta know where to like draw the line on the conversation kind of thing.
Yeah. For people who love, where this conversation goes, what's the best way that people can get a hold of you?
Honestly, you can get a hold of me any different way. You can go on my website, frasernybo.ca or yxlrealestate.ca, or any social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, just my personal fraser.nybo, I think it is. And then, yeah, I'll get back to you. And yeah, I love chatting about real estate. So if you're ever interested, just connect with me.
Yeah, beauty.
That's awesome. I got one thing on your intro there, Fraser. When I was doing a little bit of research about you, when you bought your first place, I believe you did it on a line of credit, right? You were looking at you and your brother were living together or something like that, and you had a credit, and you were looking at buying a motorbike, and instead you're like, no, I'm going to go buy a house instead or something like that.
Yeah.
Just share that story quickly.
Yeah, it was actually really funny. Me and my brother, we grew up on a farm, so we had grew up with lots of room, right? So then we were stuck in this tiny apartment in Saskatoon, and we always complained about it. Like, the neighbors, I don't like being cramped and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it was a $5,000 line of credit. And anyways, I went to the bank and I pulled out 4,000 of it, and I was gonna go buy a dirt bike. And I remember I had the money in hand, and I was sitting in this big chair in my living room. Went home, and me and my brother, we started talking about how we don't like the apartment again. So I was like, wait a minute, should I try to buy a house? Like, maybe I have a good job, and like I just started mine 1 year prior, so I had the employment income and all that stuff. So yeah, I actually went and I coupled that with RSPs that I had, and I ended up buying my first property. So yeah, that's one of the biggest decisions that definitely has changed the path of where I've gone.
I was reading that, and I was just like, oh man, that's such a cool story, because so many people start with a $5,000 line of credit. Like, what do I do? Obviously, depending where you live might, persuade where you do, but in the areas you are where real estate's a little bit lower, it's like, hey, if you get a line of credit like that, dirt bike or building an incredible real estate investment portfolio now, that was a big choice in your life. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh,
really cool.
And the ridiculous part about that is it's a huge complex. That dirt bike would have been stolen out of the back of my truck on day two, probably. I didn't even have a place to store it, and I was going to buy a dirt bike. So,
I think you made the right call.
Yeah, I think so too.
Before we dig into this one, which we're really excited about, I have a quick icebreaker game for you. So just to get to know you a little bit more, I've got this deck of pink cards. And I'm going to get you, it's got like just random little questions on it. Do you want the top card, the back card, or a middle card?
go with the middle card.
Middle card. All right, I'm just gonna cut the deck. Take this one. What's the biggest surprise you've ever had?
The biggest surprise I ever had. Could say I don't know. That's a good question, actually. Business related or personal related?
Whatever's on the top of the chart.
Oh man, I gotta think of that one. Biggest surprise. Probably the one with the most impact and the most lesson learned would probably be in one of the flips where I didn't account for the numbers right and you end up going way over budget. And then we learned a good lesson on that one.
That's never a welcome surprise.
No. Yeah, so that's probably one of the bigger surprises for sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get into that later in the conversation and dig in to see what some of those lessons you learned were. But Randy, let's dig into some of this economic stuff.
Yeah. So obviously you're from Saskatchewan, and obviously know the area very well growing up there and spending a lot of time. And I know your main market is Saskatoon, but give us a quick breakdown of Saskatchewan as a whole. Like when you look at the province, what does it look like, and why are you choosing Saskatoon, and what does the outskirts of it look like?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So obviously I grew up in Saskatchewan. I grew up in southern Saskatchewan, actually, on a farm, and rural community, good setting. And I like Saskatchewan, so I wanted to stay in Saskatchewan. So I ended up moving up to Saskatoon, bigger center. I had some family up here. And as far as the economics go, there's a lot of agriculture, mining, potash, uranium, a lot of stuff going on up north. It's a beautiful province. There's, I think, 100 and some thousand lakes in Saskatchewan. A lot of people don't know that. So there's just a lot going on. As far as the ag sector goes, there's a lot of investment going into land right now, and a lot of corporate farming going on. So farms are just getting bigger and bigger. And then the trickle down from that, like implement companies are booming, chemical seed companies, all the trickle down from that. And then the same with mining. A lot of mining companies are local, or they try to stay local, so they do keep a lot of the money within the province. And same the trickle down effect. There's a lot of manufacturing places and just different welding shops, and like I said, how everything trickles down a little bit. So that's kind of Saskatchewan as a whole. I would say the two big drivers are definitely ag and mining. But then if you break it down into more micro scale and zoom in right on Saskatoon, you have a lot of those companies are based in Saskatoon. You do have Regina, and that's the capital of Saskatchewan, so you do have government and everything there. But moving back over to Saskatoon, you have two hospitals, you have a university, a smaller university, or a college you could call it. And the university and the hospital, the main one, are actually side by side. So that's actually, like, zooming in a little bit more, that's one of the areas that, like, it's just very strong economically. There's a lot of like, if you buy in that area, it's you're getting a good investment for a long time coming.
Right. I just want to jump in there for a second and say that I'm a little bit surprised that ag is one of your top industries, and you didn't mention what I thought would be your biggest industry, which would be Riderville.
Yeah, that's true. That's
thing.
true. Yeah, that is a crazy industry in Saskatchewan, as probably a lot of the listeners know. So
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, like, if we're a joint venture partner looking to invest in you and we know nothing about Saskatchewan, we're investing from BC, pitch us on what the town's like. Like, what are the rents like? What is the industry standards? What are cap rates? What do things look like there? Purchase prices? Just fill us in. Like, if we're an investor and you want to pitch us on it, hit us with it.
Yeah, definitely. The number one thing I like to say and I like to point out is that there's no rent caps in Saskatchewan. That makes it extremely strong, because I do follow a lot of markets across Canada. Like, we've had property in Montreal. We actually just sold our last one there last year, but we'll be moving back outside of Saskatchewan. So I do watch what's going on in Canada, and I do think Saskatchewan is one of the stronger markets, just from a price point and the economic strength of the province. It like, you can pick stuff up for, like, I bought stuff last year for 130,000, and then turned around and, like, just flipped it, and those are good rental properties too, but we just wanted the quicker cash, so that's why we ended up selling that one. And, like, I'm buying houses around the 250 mark all the time. Like, I just closed on one a little while ago for 260,000, and say the assessment's about 350 on it. So, like, just the price points alone, it's extremely strong. And then, like I said earlier, if you buy in the right areas, like, if you know where to buy and the pockets to buy from a rental standpoint, It's just, yeah, it's extremely powerful. There's a lot of potential, and Saskatchewan's definitely in an economic slump right now, I would say. So that is contributing to why there are so many good deals. So if I'm getting a rent of I'm getting $13.50 for my basement suites, like single family residential basement suites, I'm getting $17.50 for the main floors. Like we're pulling in 3,000 or grossing 3,000 a month on these houses.
Wow.
Like you can make really good money on them. And
that's a 2-bedroom suite?
2-bedroom basement suite, yeah, and that is including utilities, so just take 200 off that roughly. But what I'm trying to say though is, imagine 10 years from now when the upside actually starts kicking in, or 5, 7, 10 years, whatever it is. That's what I mean by there's a lot of potential in the future.
Because a lot of what you guys play there isn't necessarily appreciation. Like out here in BC, we can buy something and not bank on it appreciating, because we never like to do that, but we know that we're going to see some sort of growth in a 10-year span, because history always says in a 10-year span we've increased value at some point. So out there, you guys don't really see much of that though, do you? Or is it's pretty slow and stagnant on the rise?
I don't know. I'd say a 2% average. It's 2 to 3%. It's not like your larger markets like Vancouver, Toronto, Victoria, but yeah, we play the cash flow game out here. Everything's you go for cash flow. If you get appreciation, like if you hold anything long enough, your tenants are going to pay the rent down.
Yeah,
and you're going to get even your 2% or 3%. It gets pretty substantial, and we're moving into the multifamily sector here. We started last year, 2 years ago, kind of thing. And just the way the numbers compound on those big buildings, it's absolutely astronomical. Like it's pretty insane actually. Like if you can push rents even $50 a unit times whatever 50 units, that's a huge gain on the upside.
What kind of cap rates are you guys seeing there for the multifamily?
I try to buy stuff around a 7 cap. I think that's kind of the number that I'm going for. But like I don't know, stuff that comes on the MLS, you see it at like a 4 cap, 3.5 cap, 5 cap sometimes. And then the numbers are also inflated. Like you guys know how performance work coming from MLS deals.
Yeah.
They're missing all the expenses and everything with that. So on actual caps, and I'm including like $75 a month going into reserve on those numbers. Like it's I try to buy around a 7 cap.
That's incredible, man. Those are some great numbers. And Steve and I joke all the time when we hear stuff like that, because it's like, dude, we see a lot of even like off MLS, like brought to us beforehand, like 3.5, 4 caps with wrong numbers, with skewed numbers. And we're like, dude, this is actually like a 2 cap if we do the numbers on it. Yeah. And so that's what we're looking at buying. And there's just no money in 2 caps. So the cool thing is that the values you can increase are exponential at a lower cap rate. So if we can raise rents, $50 a unit out here, it exponentially grows quite a bit quicker in that smaller compressed cap rate. So that's why we enjoy that here. But like you said, your place is a little bit more secure. I'll happily buy at a 7 cap all day and just take my slow grow on that one.
And like I said, we're huge into like economics, and we dive in, like we're building out a tech side of the company, and we're actually honing in on different areas in the city, and we're breaking it down, and like what drives that area, what are rents in that area, and breaking it down to like almost down to the building, and we can almost track the rents on what buildings are running, what vacancies, you know what I mean? So it's getting pretty interesting. I'm super excited about it, and I think it's going to give us a huge advantage in the future. So
that's a whole conversation for another episode, because we could talk about that all day. But one thing I do want to talk about is you are doing a lot of off-market campaigns out there. What does that look like? How are you guys marketing? What kind of leads are coming in, and how many leads do you have to see before you find a deal?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, I could talk about this all day too. So we're doing a lot of direct mail. I don't think there's a lot of people in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, or Regina doing it. So like we're doing some pretty big flyer drops right now, and we're getting pretty good results from that. But I'm actually learning that coupling that with Google ads and stuff like that, and Facebook ads, it's actually, you're getting a better ROI on your ads. And maybe I shouldn't be saying this for all competitors out there, but that's another thing I like about the Saskatchewan market. It's just so close knit. Everybody's pretty awesome about this stuff. But yeah, I get, I don't know, I'll get about a call every few days, kind of, for the volume that I'm doing. Like I'll put out, I don't know, I just put out 60,000 flyers a little while ago. There's 62,000 dwellings in Saskatoon, to put it into perspective. So hit pretty much every house. Probably do it again. Yeah. And then I'll do it again probably in the fall. And then obviously it spikes when the flyers go up, and then you get that trickle out. So I did one a while ago, so I'm kind of falling into that trickle phase. But yeah, so I don't know. Let's say a call or two a week kind of thing. So it's definitely, I'm definitely honing in on the skills on that, figure out the best way to do it and the cheapest way to do it. Right now, I'm putting out a lot of money actually on how, like, learning how to do that. So, but I think it's a good complementary income to the multifamily side of the business.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys do like out here it's not as common, but down in the States it's madly common. But you guys do like bandit signs a lot in
You don't see bandit signs here, and I'm looking into it, and I don't know if I don't know what kind of rap that gives you. You know, there's that whole conception around bandit signs. You know,
yeah.
so I'm just playing around with the idea right now, but apparently they're pretty powerful. I know some guys out your way actually that are big into bandit signs, and like they're
You almost
doing
want to set it up
commercials on
like directing to a different brand and then like funnel that into your brand so you don't get the
Yeah.
bandit sign.
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the options that we're thinking about. Just, but then there's that whole transparency thing, and I like transparency. I like just
Totally.
I'll open up books on pretty much anything if you guys check out my YouTube stuff. So yeah, I just like showing people how stuff works. So
Yeah, I like that actually. I've watched a couple of your videos on YouTube, and one of the most recent ones is just dissecting all the additional costs of acquiring an apartment building. And so let's actually dig into that. Like, what was the last apartment building that you bought, and tell us how you found it, and then like what you did to it.
yeah, so that was actually that 16 unit. I've talked a lot about that one, and ended up just our whole off-market campaign thing. I kind of have that going on the multifamily side of things, but that's tying more into the data analysis and the tech side of the business. But so it's not the same methods, so to say. But yeah, I ended up finding it off market. I contacted the owner directly and basically phoned her up, and she just like, it was like my third phone call too on that one, like just on the multifamily side of things. I think I got pretty lucky on that.
Nice.
Yeah, she's like, actually, we are thinking about selling, so if you're interested, maybe talk to my husband. So I was like, okay, when could I speak with him? Blah, blah, blah. And she was like, he's at the building right now. I was like, perfect. I'll be right over there. So then I went over, and he was actually like hauling stoves into the units. He had to change out a few stoves, so I'm helping him haul these stoves. And then it was kind of cool. We were chatting about it. He showed me around the building, and then I was down in the laundry room. He left, and I was just crunching numbers to what we could buy it for, kind of thing. And then I went out. He was just plugging in a stove and taking stickers off in one of the units. So I went. It was pretty cool, actually. I was kneeling down by him, and I was like, yeah. So I thought about it, and I think the most we could pay is 1.3 for this. And again, it's a 16 unit. It's a pretty good area. It's an up and coming area, and it's the 87.5, I think, a door is what it works out to for what we ended up purchasing it. So I think I offered 60,000 a door. Just numbers off the top of my head for 1.3. So he was like, oh no, an older guy. He was about 80. He was like, no, I can't do that. That's way too low. So he said 1.5, and then we came back at 1.4, I think. And I was like, well, I'll think about it and I'll get back to you. And it was funny, like the tenant was walking around in the living room behind the kitchen, and he'd come once in a while, and the owner, he would stop talking when the tenant would come behind him. It was pretty funny. It was kind of surreal. So like, just working on big deals and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool though, and I think that's how you find the good deals in different market, like just how the market is right now, especially.
I appreciate the transparency on that, man. That's so many people don't talk about those stories of like, hey, I didn't know what I was doing when I called the guy. You hear people say, oh, I didn't know that, but like actually like the story of going there and sitting down, helping them install stoves, you know, it probably got you a good rep. And then like, I can just picture you both kneeling behind a stove, like, hey, how much do you want to sell it for?
That's kind of what it was like. Probably exactly how you're picturing it. It was pretty funny. But yeah, and then I can talk a little bit more about that property too, if you guys want.
I'm curious. Like, was there any kind of value add play to it? Like, 16 units. Did you walk in? Was there any kind of creative financing to it initially, and then like once you took possession, what was the strategy? Was it turnkey, or did you do some value add, or what did you do?
Yeah, so I'm a big advocate for value adds, so not turnkey properties. Just like I said, with multifamily, everything compounds so much, so that's the direction that we're really pushing. And like, for example, so we bought this thing at 1.4. We did, like, I'll touch on the financing a little bit. We did end up doing CMHC financing. They have some really good products out there right now. So we ended up getting 2.62% interest on a 35-year AM. Our debt servicing is like $4,000 on a $1.2 million loan after all the closing costs. And so pretty powerful stuff on the financing end. And there's a time and a place to use it. We can talk more about that. But
what was your loan to value on that?
Oh, pardon me?
What was your loan to value on that?
Loan to value, what was that? So we bought it at a 79% LTV, LTV. Oh, 81. We put 19% down, so 266,000, I think, on it.
Incredible.
But So, but that's the thing with the LTV on that. So we actually, because we bought it so low, like to put it into perspective, there was one unit. It was a 2nd-story, 2-bedroom, and the rent was $600 a month. That's what the lady was paying. Market rent right now is $900. We just bought this thing in October, 8 months ago or whatever. And so what I was talking about before, raising value or raising rents by $50 a unit, like if you can raise $300 a unit and no rent caps. So we actually did do it in 2 phases. We raised it already 200, so she's paying 800, and we'll give her another bump in whenever, probably another 6 months or 8 months or something like that. And she is staying. So it was kind of tactful. Like we don't want to rock the boat and scare people off. Like we still do want a stable building.
Yeah.
Stability with the option for a value add, I think, is key.
Hmm.
But yeah, so anyways, yeah, we just went in with that. And so we bought it at 1.4. When we get rents up to market rents, I think average rents are $770 when we purchased it, or $760 something. When we get it optimized, rents should be about $850, which gives us a value at, I think it's this 5.5 or 6 cap. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's about 1.65 to 1.7 million.
Nice.
So, and I've ran that past a lot of commercial realtors in the city, and like some older realtors who've been around the block, and like over coffee and stuff like that, we'll chat about this stuff, and they agree with me 100%. So
nice. No rent cap is a huge advantage. Like there's few provinces that allow that. And here in BC, we're only allowed to raise rent by like 2.6% last year and 2.9% this year, I think. So for the Tenancy Act in Saskatchewan, is the majority of it favoring the owners and investors, or more so the tenants?
No, everything else is for the tenants. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the rent caps are pretty much I'm not going to say the only good thing. There are good things, obviously. There's pros and cons to everything, but it's just knowing how to work with the rules and maximize them to your advantage, basically, yours and your investors. So, but I think that gives investors peace of mind. Going back to your question about what would you tell me, that ties into it huge, and knowing somebody who, like, qualifying somebody who is good and you know that they're good and they do have a good track record, I think is extremely important. Like if I was to invest outside of Saskatchewan with somebody else, that would be a huge component.
Mm-hmm. How do you, what's your tactic on working with the tenants on, a $200 increase? Like if I'm me at 60 years old and I'm like, sweet, like I'm paying $600 a month, riding the gravy train, and somebody approached me for an extra $200, 30% increase. I'm like, crap, like, ugh. What's your tactic on approaching those tenants?
So we do have a property management company in place. I'm very big on like leveraging time and trying to create more time, basically, and by hiring a lot of jobs out that don't benefit us, or better off using my time for something else that either creates us money or creates me more time, or gets us more time. So we do have property management on that building. We're starting to move everything over into management, and then I can focus on finding deals and putting investors together, and just meeting people and doing interviews and stuff like that. So, but basically the tactic that we use is we go in and we explain to people that market rents are here. We show them examples, and we say, as you know, the property, we did recently purchase the property. The property has recently changed hands and financing is expensive. And we're going in and we're cleaning up all the units. We put new laundry units in. We're taking care of all the boiler, furnace. We're putting a new furnace in. So there's no CO2 or anything going into you know what I mean? Like everything is going to be new, and we're trying to build or put together a high quality building. So essentially we're going to bring up your rent, and we will keep it below market rents, but we do need to raise rent. And it just takes tact, and you just got to be real with people, and people are pretty receptive to that. I think if you go in and just start saying you're going to raise rents $200 a month, and that doesn't go very well, and you're probably going to lose your tenants. So. And you hear stories about that all the time too. Like I know a lot of investors in Saskatoon, and then they just move over next door to you know what I mean?
Did you have
with her? We probably won't take her right up to 900. We'll maybe give her 850 or 825 or something, or maybe we'll even leave her at 800. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
did you have much turnover as you've been increasing rents, or?
So this is actually a really good lesson, and this is something that I learned that I'm going to use going forward. When you purchase a multifamily apartment building, you need to put in the contract that once conditions are removed, you get the final say on tenant placement. So they can't just put anybody in there. they filled 5 units with tenants that weren't like they didn't put them on contract, didn't take deposits. They filled them up with subpar tenants, we'll say. And but it did turn out okay, because over time, I think it was over a 4 or 5 month period, it was one by one, they were the ones that ended up causing trouble and having to get either evicted or they left on their own. But that is a huge lesson learned. And we were lucky that it was on a small scale and I wasn't in a 50 unit apartment building when that happened.
So. Dude, that's such a good piece of advice. Like I didn't even think of that. Buying some multifamily, like making sure to have that as a part of the contract is freaking brilliant. Along those lines of, learning lessons, if you had to change something about the process of the acquisition through, some of the turnover and now current management, what's one thing that you would have changed to improve?
Ooh, that's a good question. I probably would have surrounded myself with more people that were doing bigger deals like that. I had some good coaching on it. I was hiring people basically to help me on it and coaching and stuff like that. Like I'm a big advocate for just coaching and getting around the right people. And sometimes you have to pay for that, and that's just the way it is. So, but yeah, that's probably my number one. I would get around more people that were doing bigger deals, just so you could learn from their mistakes so that you wouldn't have to learn it on their own. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. Like I'm really meeting a lot of interesting people that are doing like 50 unit, 100 unit deals. And it's super interesting, the stuff you learn. And you think the learning would stop, but it never does. Like even those guys are learning from guys above them. That's what I love about real estate, is just you're always learning and there's always something new to learn about it. So, but yeah, I'd say that's the number one.
That's wicked. Yeah, Steve and I are, we found the value of learning from people that were more experienced than us super early, from mentorship into masterminds and everything we're doing. And our most recent purchase was 12 units, 12 building lots. And for us, that was a big step up. It's like you buy a 16 unit apartment building. But for the guy we partnered with and who's mentoring us in it, it was a small deal. It was like a chump change deal for him. Like, this is just such a good deal, I can't pass it up. So it's cool for us to learn, like, hey, it's at the top of our threshold of learning, but it was such an easy deal for him to teach us. So now we just are going to keep moving up the ladder with him, saying, cool, now we've just done 12. How do we go to 50? And then how do we go to 100? Because this guy's building, 15-story high rises downtown. Doing these deals is just chump for him. So it was really cool for us to learn that partnership and actually go in and be, partners with him on a project. That's, something cool that we've learned along the way, of partnering with people to learn on it, as opposed to, or hiring people to come in and support you in it. Instead of doing it yourself, man, it's way easier.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how it works too? Like it's so intimidating right now. That deal that you were doing, the deal I was doing, it was intimidating at the time. And there was times you're banging your head against the wall. It seems like it. Yeah. But then 5 years from now, looking back, it's going to be like, oh, I can't believe I was worried about that.
Totally. On the topic of partnerships, just curious, and you can share as much as you want, but what's your typical partnership structure look like when you do a building like this? Did you guys do a limited partnership, a joint venture partnership? What are the typical structures that you're using on properties like this?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good question. So actually on this one, we put a corporation together on it. And that's the way we're going to structure our business going forward. We have the whole corporate structure, and then partners each get shares in the corporation. And then we actually did the JV on the back end, just outlaying everything. And yeah, that's basically how we structured it. So on that one, we gave a lot away on the deal, actually, just because it was our first larger property. So to dive in on that a little bit, it was an investment. I was raising $400,000. So because we got such a low down payment, like we only had to put 19% down, so that essentially accounted for $100,000 less that we had to raise. So I actually ended up only raising $300,000, and each investor got roughly, it was 18.75% of the corporation that owned the building. So they participate in everything from cash flow to capital pay down to appreciation and everything in between. So I'm a big advocate for that. I think a lot of people, like everybody's in this to make money, and that's basically the underlying reason that everybody's buying real estate. And then obviously there's various reasons behind that, whether it's personal freedom, the ability to travel, to spend more time with your family. And that's the reason everybody wants more money. But we're at a point in our career, and I think we'll always be like this too. We're not greedy people. So I don't mind giving a lot of the deal away. And like you said earlier, it attracts a lot more people to you. Like people, I know a lot of people that are paying 6 to 8%, just like whatever preferred return. And you're going to get a lot more if you're getting equity in the building. You'll probably get that in cash flow or something close to that in cash flow. Maybe it'll be a little bit less, but you're going to gain just leaps and bounds on the back, like when you go to sell the building. And then you actually have a say. Like we take everybody's opinion into consideration when like stuff like that comes up, like when do we want to sell? And we try to put the right investors together on the right properties. And we have some actually really interesting stuff on how we're structuring things long term that I could dive in on, but it might take some time. So maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's something Steve and I've worked really hard on, is just finding the right partners for the right projects and putting the right structure in place. And, you know, every deal can have a different structure. You know, we've used everything from limited partnerships to joint venture partnerships to corporations. And it's just a matter of having, like, depending on the deal and depending on the partners, putting it all together. So it's cool to hear that you're kind of structuring it one way, but being open to the concepts of other ways.
Exactly. We do. Or go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, man.
Okay. And we do it different ways too. Like we have a flipping division of the company. So like we turn properties over really quick. We do bigger renovations, stuff like that. So we do equity splits. We do just set interest rate payments. So debt model investing. So we have pretty much a place for anybody looking to invest in real estate.
That was my next question to you. Yeah, that was my next question to you, was like, obviously you're doing multifamily is just one section that you're doing. You're still doing, you know, your single family holds and your flips and stuff like that. Are you doing partnerships on those? Or are you just doing hard money lends, or what's that structure look like on those properties?
Yeah. So on the flips, we're actually getting into hard money lending, and that's the best way to do it for us. Like we still have a lot of people do want equity, but a lot of people are interested in just investing for X% return. Like we're doing 10% with one guy right now, and it's going great. He loves it.
And that's in first position?
A second position. The hard money's first because he put up more money.
Oh,
but still ahead of us for security purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I love about real estate and structuring deals. It's pretty much limitless. You can do it however you want. And what a lot of people don't realize too, and I'm actually starting to talk more about this, is the difference between debt model investing and equity model investing. So like a set 50-50 JV, or just a set 10% return on your money. People don't realize the risk involved in each of those. Like with equity, if you go equity on a flip property and you're like, say, whatever, there's an overage, as an equity partner, you're actually on the hook for the loss. Whereas if you're a debt model investor, so you're just getting a set 10%, you get that no matter what. It's like a loan from the bank. So a lot of people don't realize that, and I do have to explain that a lot to people. So, but after I say that, a lot of people are like, "Hey, well, actually, I am happy with 10%." You know, so it's every investor is different, and you just got to talk. And like I said, just be real.
I'm just curious, like, where on a scale of like 1 to 10 would you put your own like risk profile?
Probably about a 7. Me personally, 7 or 8. I'll take risk. It's always very, very calculated though. Like I do my due diligence. I'm very like you call me like an analyst personality. I do dive into things, and I am an action taker, but I do a lot of assessments, and I run projections out on everything. And I could actually tell you a story recently on something like that. Yeah. Okay. I don't know how much more time we have here, but like recently we bought a property. We put it under contract early March, so pre-pandemic, and then we went through the due diligence, removed conditions, and so it was listed at 330. We bought it at 260. City assessments 350, and we went in, removed conditions, and the pandemic was starting to heat up, and it was starting to get crazy. We could have actually backed out of the contract under a force majeure clause in every real estate contract. It was an MLS deal, and but we decided it is such a good deal. Me and my wife, we know it's a good deal in a good neighborhood. People are still going to be buying. Like people still do have money. There was a lot of unknowns, so there was a huge risk factor in that. Like, do you back out or do you keep going? We decided to keep going just because we knew the numbers are solid. We knew it was a great area that people want to be in, and it's just a good deal. So we put together a 3-step action plan. So we ended up, number one, we decided we would try to wholesale it. So we bought it for 260. We were going to wholesale it for 280,000. And I know you can sell this thing pretty much as is for probably 300,000. If you went in and did a renovation, you could put, I don't know, 50 to say 70,000 even. You could probably sell it just right around 4, probably 390. So there's good margins on that. Take into account your fixed cost. Everybody's fixed costs are different, but there's still good margins on that. So like when we buy a deal, even if we are going to wholesale it, we are prepared to close on it. Like I'm not going to buy that house is what I'm trying to say. So we tried to wholesale it and nobody was interested in it. I think just because of the whole COVID or the whole pandemic thing. And so our plan 2 was we close on the property, just clean it up. There was a lot of pets in the house and it was in a little bit of disrepair, lots of trim, like you know how it is with lots of dogs, the trim gets chewed up and stuff like that. So we went and replaced all that, cleaned it up, deep cleaning all the carpets, vents cleaned, went up into the attic, checked everything out, like, you know, just make it a good house to sell. So then I actually closed on it April 30th and I resold it on May 11th. So 11 days later, I resold it for 300,000. So then he had a week for conditions. Conditions didn't end up going through. So that was, I think it was Tuesday night that he let me know that conditions weren't going to be removed. So Wednesday they were supposed to be off. So I relisted it Wednesday and I had it resold for 3,035 2 days later. So like I said, it's a good house and I knew I could sell it fast. And then the plan for the quick term for step 2, if I wasn't able to sell it in a 1 month period or 1.5 month period, just depending how the market feels and how much interest we're getting, we would go in and we'd do a full renovation on it and then list it at 390. But I see, and this is another thing that ties into the risk. So with the whole pandemic thing, I knew there was going to be lots of buyers in the 325, 350 range, but I wasn't 100% confident that there was going to be buyers in the 400 plus range. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's all calculated risk that we take into account, and we do, like, we have to mitigate risk for us and our investors. Like nobody's in this to lose money. So
yeah.
So anyways, that's a good story on just how to shift and how to calculate risk or how we do it.
And I almost don't even think that you're a 7 in a sense, because you have the calculated risk and the exit strategies and all set in place. You got a plan A, B, and C. So I mean, I get what you're saying, but from a risk analysis standpoint, it's not really a 7. It's maybe a 3 or something along those lines, because you have all that stuff set in place. But I want to jump into some rapid fire questions here, and it's just, whatever kind of comes to your head first. We got a few of them, and we got some would you rather stuff too. And so starting off at the top, what is one thing that every visitor needs to do or see in your city?
I would say just get down to the river, check out the restaurants. There's a lot of cool restaurants opening up in Saskatoon. It wasn't overly great for that quite a few years ago, but it's really picked it up. It's really changed a lot. My wife is from Montreal. She's really, like, she loves Saskatoon. So for a Montrealer to say that with all the restaurants in the world in Montreal and all like very quality restaurants, to say that about restaurants in Saskatoon, it carries a lot of weight, I think. So and then that's what else would I do? I'd get out of the city too, and I'd go check out the lakes. I think there's 100 and some thousand lakes in Saskatchewan. And just go enjoy it. Like, life is so busy right now. When you can get a chance to enjoy it and relax a little bit, I like to get out to a lake and just kind of relax a little bit. So
what's a local business you want to give a shout out to?
A local business, I would say a lot of the local restaurants. There's a lot of really great ones. Like Delish, there's one called Delish by Tish that me and my wife like. It's in a really cool area. And then I would just say that's probably one of the businesses I would say for sure.
Nice. If you could have a fireside chat with anybody dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ones actually. So Chris Voss would be one. I'm big into psychology and negotiation right now, so I really like Chris Voss's stuff. Robert Cialdini, he's got a couple books out on psychology and just how the human brain works and stuff like that. So he'd be interesting. And then you get into like processes and that whole end of the spectrum, and I'd probably talk to Ray Dalio. I like his stuff. He has that book out, Principles, and if anybody hasn't read that, I'd definitely recommend that. And then I like I look up to a lot of people, like Grant Cardone. He's a huge motivator. I think he would be cool to chat with. And who else? I could probably go on and on.
What's your favorite real estate related book or resource, or what got you started in this?
Oh, Bigger Pockets was probably a huge component of our growth. It's just, it is a US based podcast, but they have a lot of Canadian people on there too. But what I say to people is a lot of the principles they work in Canada. It's just the financing stuff that doesn't necessarily work. The theory is there, but a lot of the actual practice doesn't work. So just keep that in mind. But there's a lot of good stuff in Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, definitely. Great resource for anybody getting started and for, people continuing to go. Would you rather have great partners but bad tenants, or great tenants but bad partners?
Oh, I'd rather have great partners. You can always work with the tenants and move people around if you have to, but once, like, we believe in long-term relationships, and the partners that we work with, we are looking for, like, we want good long-term relationships, like, just be able to look back 20 years down the road on everything we've accomplished, both passively and actively, and just laugh about it and chat about it. So we keep pretty good relationships with our partners.
Would you rather have 10 different partners on 10 different properties, or only have to deal with one partner, but you only get 6 properties?
I do one partner for the 6 properties, and then I get another partner for 6 more.
Really, I like it. Improvising.
Yeah.
Here's a fun one, just to wrap things up. Would you rather be on stage teaching in a clown outfit for an entire year, or be plunging a backed up overflow toilet from a tenant?
I've done lots of toilets, but I'll do the clown thing. I think that'd be fun. I can make it work.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Fraser. So many great stories, man. You've got such a good presence, and you're so open and willing to share everything with people. And obviously, people are going to want to reach out to you. So where, again, can they reach out to you if they want to hear some more about your stories or ask you some questions?
Yeah, if anybody ever wants to chat, like I said, I can talk about this stuff for days on end. So just go to my website, frasernybo.ca, or again, on any social media channel, pretty much Facebook. Instagram is probably the one I'm trying to grow the most and trying to connect with people most on right now. And then, or you can go to my company website at yxlrealestate.ca, and just connect with me. And if you're ever interested in chatting, just let me know.
Yeah, I can attest. He's such a great guy to chat to. We've had a lot of conversations, and super easygoing and transparent about everything. And if you guys want to see more interviews like this and get to meet more people like Fraser, you can hop into our community on Facebook, the REINVESTORS community. If you just Google that on Facebook, there's a lot of guys like Fraser and other people on there that are just having great conversations. And that's where we're going to be posting these interviews, so you can comment on it and start conversations there. With that, thank you for watching the interview, learning about Saskatchewan, and thanks for coming on, Fraser. We really appreciate it. And if you guys want, join us on our next episode as we continue to interview real estate experts across Canada, learning about what strategies work where. Thanks for coming on, Fraser.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity. And if anybody like you guys need to start following the REI investors, they're awesome. They're doing some pretty cool stuff. So
yeah, thanks, man. Stay green out there.
Awesome. We'll see you guys.